Alright, to make a very good T-spline mesh of something like this in a regular shape, we need to do a loft. The T-spline loft being very close to the original mesh before doing a T-spline pull. And to do that, we need to have sufficient profiles. So we need to look, what I'm doing here is looking where the original mesh changes its profile cross-section a lot. And I'm going to make a profile there. You can see I made a first sketch with lines that are going to be the construction planes, and so we see I put a line right at where it gets real thin there, and everywhere where it's going to change a lot, so where the profile changes a lot. Now I'm doing construction planes at an angle for each of these lines at 90 degrees. Now I'm going to do a sketch on them. Here's the first one, and say intersect and choose the mesh. Now this is a mesh that was converted to a B-rep body. Okay, there's all the profiles by intersection on the 5 different sketches. What am I going to do next here? So okay, yeah, I guess I need to make splines on top of these profiles, because otherwise a loft, so this is a little bit of a pain, but it's not bad. We just go back into the sketch and create a spline with snapping onto sufficient number of points there from that intersection curve. Do the next sketch. And on one of these sketches I accidentally created 2 splines and had to redo it. See right there, something happened there. I wasn't paying attention, but I had to go back and redo that. So I right-clicked on this sketch and said Edit Sketch. After I selected one of the line segments, that's a quick way to go into a sketch to edit it. Alright, and getting close here. See, I selected a part of the sketch, then right-clicked and say Edit Sketch. And you can always undo if you misclick on this, and it'll go back one spline segment, so you don't have to undo the whole thing. And I think this is the last one here. Now we're going to create a sketch on this slice or split plane or face, and you can see how that created a nice projected a nice profile of that face, which we're going to use, you know, the tan area there with the outline. So I need to be sure to do an intersection of this spline curve, and you know you selected it because it'll and not the original projection curve. See, it'll just show that spline top and not the bottom part, so I know I'm selecting it right. In each one of these, when I do an intersect, that's going to create a point where it intersects our current sketch. And I'm just kind of keeping track of which ones I've done by using the sketch visibility. So there's the points where on each end of those splines they intersect our current sketches. Now that's real important to do for this path splines, that you snap onto those projected points. Otherwise the loft will not work. It'll say that the rails do not intersect the profiles. There's our rail for the one side. And I was doing the wrong type of line there. Snap onto the projected points. And right here you can see I noticed I messed up, so I'm just going to undo Control Z to backtrack. And the spline with enough points should do a really nice following of that previous line. Alright, what's next here? Oh yes, I'm going to move the sketch before my sculpt event I already had there, and then edit the sculpt event. Now we're going to do the loft. So I'll uncheck the chain selection and start selecting my profiles here, and you can be sure you select the right line, that it's the spline and not the other original projected line that's on top of it. And it's easy to tell that you're selecting the right one. Then I'm going to add a new input and click on, be sure I select the spline that I made for the rail. Okay, so that edge now is normalized to what it should be. And last but not least, this other rail. And you can always zoom in as far as you need to select the correct line. So that's a useful tip. Okay, and looks real good so far. Probably increase the mesh, the T-spline mesh density here. So it's rectangular meshes, and increasing the density this much probably isn't really necessary, but might get a better fit. Of course, it might make editing a little more difficult if you want to modify your shoe insole at all, but so that looks good. And now for the final step here to do the pull. So we already have a T-spline mesh now that's very close to our original mesh, and so now we can use the T-spline and get a good final result. If we didn't do that loft, it's just asking too much for the pull operation. So I'm going to be sure select through is checked, and then do the Tpline vertices, select those, select my mesh, original imported mesh, and that's not a B-rep body, it's the original mesh. That's important. And wow, look at that. I mean, it is right on the money. And you can see there's no crinkles or anything, because we took care of those by doing all the proper profiles. So here I tried to look at it a different way by making the outer side yellow by reversing the normal direction, but this doesn't do it justice. Even though it looks a little patchy there, it's extremely close to the original mesh. So yeah, that's the way I would do it. Hope this helped. Take care.